Welcome to the Future.Bible Podcast, where you'll hear profiles of individuals and Bible-inspired organizations making a difference in the digital world. In each episode, we'll bring you stories of innovation, advancement, and real-life change. Are you ready? Let's get to today's episode.
Well, hello, friends. It's Kenny Jahng here with Future.Bible, and across the interwebs, I've got my partner in crime, DJ Chuang. Welcome to the show, DJ.
Across the continental 48 of the United States, back in California.
East Coast, West Coast, being made possible by the internet, the internet superhighway connecting us today for a conversation that we're going to have about all things .Bible. We are actually, I think there's two things that we'd love to talk about today, right, DJ? First is a timely resource as we go into the Thanksgiving season, and then a recap of where we were and where we last met each other in person together. So let's go to the first piece. What is the timely resource that we're going to share with everybody today, DJ?
Well, I'll tell you what it is first, and then if we have time for the backstory, we can talk about that. But Thanksgiving is such a meaningful time for families, and often the story becomes, hey, what are we doing for dinner, and who we invite, and a lot of the food aspect of it and the travel aspect. I think it's the most traveled day of the year. So a lot of traffic, a lot of airplanes, a lot of expenses, and being involved with the Bible and believing it to be the most important anchor of our faith. I wondered, well, where can I find some good Bible devotions or verses or images to commemorate Thanksgiving? And so it's a personal thing. I was looking for it, and I had a hard time finding it on the web. So
that's one of those things that's interesting, right? That you just assume that there are resources set up all over the web for anything that you can think of, but yet there's so much out there topically waiting for you, me, and others to actually create, produce, and publish.
Yeah, so in this case, it's a curation of what's already produced out there, because there are some things out there and they're just scattered all over the web. And so before Thanksgiving, particularly in a Christian home, or you're introducing some neighbors or friends, like we're having some friends over from my son's college to experience, their international students to experience Thanksgiving for the first time. So it'd be nice to open the Bible and share some things about Thanksgiving. So we put all that together, Thanksgiving.Bible. It's a nice, beautiful visual Pinterest kind of a thing, and so you can find some great images and verses and devotionals to read.
Yeah, I love the fact that we've got a resource here on the website that's just basically helping families making Thanksgiving more meaningful, memorable, with Bible readings and Bible verses, Bible activities. And so just inspiration, right, for you to click through and actually get inspired to potentially pull some of these resources or these activities or some of the popular Thanksgiving Bible verses that you might review at the table or in conversation or in a devotional that day with your family. I think it's a one-stop shop, right? And I think that's one of the key things that a GTLD like .Bible allows you to do in today's world of the internet. I guess that's the question here is, for the internet, are there other ways of fighting through the clutter that supersedes doing it at the baseline, at the URL, DJ?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. The thing I'm experiencing with the internet is when I want to share a website or a resource with someone I just met, like I've been networking with a bunch of people this week beyond the conference that we're going to talk about. And I was like, oh, the answer to your question is blank, blank, blank URL, blank, blank, blank URL. And if it's short and concise and memorable, then I don't have to repeat myself.
Right.
And they don't have to write it down, and they don't have to type really long things. and I don't have to create an email or a task to write the email to send the link and
Yes.
all this stuff, right? So if I can make that quote unquote call to action or pass along that resources really easily and simply, it's such a time saver, and it's incredible. I mean, it's efficient. It cuts through the clutter, and I mean, I think with as many tools and things that are available today, when we can get clarity and focus, it's so important to how we do things.
Well, you're seeing more and more websites use these generic GTLDs, right? That are not country-specific GTLDs, right? Most people don't know, like when you're using bit.ly, that LY really is a country extension for the country of Libya, right? People don't know that. But it's been interesting. I was just in the airport, and I saw a big billboard banner in Newark Airport for Amazon's AWS service, and they were actually using the .aws as part of the call to action URL. You're seeing that more and more. How many top-level domains are there available today, DJ? Do you know?
Over 1,500. And I have a blog post on get.bible. And I should make a short URL or maybe a whole domain for that. But there's a blog post that I'm tracking every week how many top-level domains. I think 1,540 was the actual number I looked at last week. And to just kind of give you a little more of the technical background, when you say .ly is actually Libya, .me is another tiny little country, .tv is actually another country. So if you notice the pattern, those are two-letter extensions. And so anytime you see a two-letter extension, it's actually a country.
Yes.
So in the industry, they're called country codes. All right. And then anytime you see 3 characters or more, those are the new GTLDs. And so that's an easy way to sort those out.
And every GTLD is not available at every registrar, right? Is there any rhyme or reason, or how would you figure out for any given GTLD where you can grab it and register it? There's no easy way to do that, right?
Yeah. There's no easy way to do that yet. And there's a few registrars that pride themselves in having everything available at one stop. And I don't know which one that is, but I know there's a few that really try to be that place.
Now, for .bible itself, there are a handful of registrars that people can go to right now publicly and register one even as they listen to this podcast, right? What are some of the places that we can actually get a domain from? I know it's listed on get.bible, right? I believe that's a get.bible/register.
That's right. Get.bible/register is where we have a official list that's continually being updated. We're signing up new registrars, which are the retail stores where you buy these .bible domains. We're signing new ones up every week. And so some of them sell to the public. Some of them are private companies that service big corporations and brands and other kind of things that's not available to public, just to explain that. But currently we have 10 different stores, online stores where you can buy register.bible domains. Probably the one that is the biggest that people may have heard of is United Domains. Have you heard of that one before?
Yeah, I've heard of United Domains. And the other one, I'm looking at the list right now at get.bible/register. 101domain.com. I've heard of those guys before. Actually, I think I bought one or two in the past personally. But some of these others I haven't heard of, but they're interesting. And I guess some of these are from other countries, right? There's the Ukraine hosting. There's Macaria, which I believe, is Macaria based in Spain?
Portugal or Spain. I get confused because they kind of hide that location for some reason.
It's not listed on the site. Gandhi or Gandhi.net is, which I believe is actually a New Star related one, right?
Possibly. one of the things with these registrars and domain backends and so on, there's these acquisitions and mergers that happen.
Right. But Gandhi is operated out of France, it says on their website.
Okay.
And so there's a whole United Domains and Circa, Purity Names, Domain.net, Euro, DNS, Nominate.com. It's just I guess it's just a reminder that the domain industry is a global one. It's not just, we tend to think as Americans that everything is U.S. only or U.S. centric.
Right. Domain.net is from Israel. Nominate.com is actually in England. Euro DNS is somewhere in the EU. United Domains is actually based in Germany. So just to give you a few other countries that are abroad. Yeah.
And then register.bible, right? Is the last one that's publicly available that you can register on.
Yeah, so we've made it really easy, or some of these registrars have made it really easy to remember where to get a .bible domain. Registered.bible, REGISTER, is a registrar. That's one of the things that's really a tongue twister in this industry. They have registrars, registries, a lot of register.
Oh, yeah, well, actually, it's both, right? They have registered.bible and registrar.bible.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the people that register domain names, they're called registrants. And then we're operating this top-level domain, and we're called a registry.
Registry operations. Yes, it's almost as if you're conjugating verbs back in foreign language class, right?
There we go. Yes.
And I see let's just call this out, 50% offer right now for getting a .bible name. So if you are actually listening today and inspired to start a new website or change your domain name to something that's a little bit more strategic, easier to remember, this is the time to do it, I guess, because I guess, DJ, if the 50% offer is available at any of those public registrars, right?
No. Only at participating registrars, just like special sales are only at participating stores when these franchises run specials. So the top 3 that are listed on the top of the page, registrar.bible, marcaria.com, and Ukraine, are the only 3 that are participating registrars for this 50% off.
Which means it's a deal. You should go out and check it out.
It's an amazing deal. We have had a couple of domains that retail at over $1,000, and they were registered for half that
price.
Yeah.
So we are actually talking tangible savings here at get.bible. So that's great. It's one of those things I think that people are, again, getting used to seeing in the wild different types of GTLDs other than even .bible. There's a lot of different websites out there. And then talking about innovation and I guess forerunners in the space, I'm going to pivot our conversation a little bit because we were able to actually get into the room with a bunch of innovators recently in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think that was a really interesting time for me. It was an encouraging one. It was an inspiring one for me, for sure. Because it was a different type of event and conference. DJ, what did you think about it? We're talking about the FaithLeads.tech event held at the Lifeway building in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's right. .tech is one of the new GTLDs, since we're talking about GTLDs. And I actually met 3 or 4 .bible website users that were there. One of them was a presenter too. So that was really neat to see how it was useful and it was helpful, and it really broke through the clutter in how they're engaging the web. I laugh every time you say interesting because that's such a safe word to say. But I thought it was phenomenal, and I thought it was a long time coming. So I kind of grew up with technology and the internet. I actually have a computer engineering degree from Virginia Tech back in '88. So that's pre-internet, pre-iPhone, pre all this, and now it's everywhere, and it's changed our lives. And so as much technology has become a part of our everyday lives and even a part of our faith, there's not one place that leaders and thinkers and pastors can get together to talk about our faith and technology. And so this, I think, could be a historic time for us to really apply our understanding of God and the Bible and how we do church and how we reach people using the current technologies, and even speak into creating the new technologies that are around the corner on how we can best fulfill the Great Commission and the Great Commandment.
Yeah. It just serves so many purposes, right? I think it was interesting to see some speakers and some of the conversations at the tables where people were sharing some of the obstacles, but also some of the successes they've had, or like I've saw some conversations where people lit up and they realized they had some like overlapping common goals, and they're trying to find shared language, and they're like, oh yeah, we're actually trying to do the same thing. So those are the types of the conversations that was really neat to see. But then I think just overarching, the takeaway though for me was this event was, I think, the start of building of community around the people who were in attendance. It reminded me of some other communities that we've actually visited recently, kind of like the Rock Conference with the Rock Development Community, or Church IT Network Conference and that community. But this one just felt a little bit different, right? The technologists, the visionaries, the ministry tech leaders that were there. There definitely were some overlap, right? We saw some friends that we just recently saw at the other conferences, but definitely a whole bunch of new people that felt like they've never had a conference for themselves, and here it is. This is something for them.
That's right. And that's one of the social dynamics of how we relate as people and how we build communities. Communities do overlap, and communities do require some kind of a regular event, either offline or online, or both, ideally both, for people to stay connected and to invite new people in. And because the internet is so big, there are Christian developers, there are Christian technologists, there are Christians that are interested in using technology to further the cause of the gospel. But because it's so big, it's so hard to find each other. And so when people come to a conference and meet people face to face, they're a little more serious, and they're invested in really wanting to further the kingdom with others. And so it's really nice to see open-handed people instead of people that are just, hey, we got it all figured out. We need to learn from other people. And so it was really encouraging for me.
The speakers were cool, and it was such a it was really a wide diversity of topics. What was one or two that, that you still have some impact or remember off the cuff right now for you, DJ?
I really enjoyed John Dyer's talk. He's given a lot of thought about technology and faith. He actually wrote a book on it. So I think it's Garden to the City. So he traces the theme of the technology throughout the entire Bible. And so even our first ancestors created tools, which are a form of technology. So he does a word study on the word technology. It's related to the word technos, which is related to the hands. And so it's anything that's an extension of what we can do physically ourselves as humans is a kind of technology. So even the Bible that we read physically on paper, that's a technology. And then now we have iPads and iPhones, and we're wearing Bluetooth headsets. That's a technology. And technologies can very much facilitate Bible engagement. And so I really appreciate how he gave us that biblical grounding on how we can and should use technology instead of being so cautious and being so paranoid about it.
No, absolutely. I thought Brandon Dollison's opener was actually something that I enjoyed, because you almost think that someone from Life Church or Brandon and the Digerati team would actually talk about their latest innovations or literal, what they're doing with AI or AR or et cetera, but he came and talked about mission and vision and just very higher level things that I think was so refreshing to hear from this type of person that says, hey, look, here's one way to frame it, and gave us some just really helpful concepts and thoughts of how we're stewarding the kingdom and the technology that we've been given with it. And so it applies to open source, applies to collaboration and the innovation, all the stuff that they're trying to do in the Open Digitality team over there at Life Church. But I think it was so applicable to everybody else in the room. And just talking about what responsibility does the church have to steward technology for kingdom impact. I love the talk.
Yes. Amen.
I loved meeting Robert Rouse in person again there.
Yes.
Our friend from viz.bible. I think anyone listening that hasn't been to the website, you got to go right now. Hop over to a browser and go to www.viz.bible. We recently had him on the show, and it was a great interview. But Robert's an interesting guy.
Yeah, he's really applying the whole science. Actually, there's degrees now you can get as a data scientist. So he's really applying science and analytics to the Bible and really opening up some recurring themes and some new insights that really helps us to see the Bible fresh with new eyes. So really appreciate meeting him too. Another person I met was somebody with Progress.Bible. And so it was neat to
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's neat to meet the guy behind there. And Progress.Bible is aiming to become a dashboard so you can see the progress of Bible translation as we move towards, as the collective move towards translating the Bible into all the languages that are currently spoken. And I think we're under 2,000, moving towards 1,000 right now. So that's just a starter site. And it's great. I think the recurring thing that just kind of popped in my head as we talk about this episode, it's that getting started is the best step to take. And so FaithLeads Tech didn't have everything figured out, but they felt led to take that step and convene this conference. And so some of the pieces might have been a little disjointed, and I heard a little bit of confusion with some people, but because it was new and because they had an open hand, it came just to make it happen was so valuable. And same thing with Thanksgiving.Bible. Just to make it happen, get a website to stand up, get a domain registered. Those are first steps worth taking, even though when you haven't figured it all out.
No,
because
absolutely.
It becomes clearer. It becomes clearer as you take the first step, then you can figure out the second step.
Yes.
You don't have to figure out the 1,000 steps before you launch.
Someone was talking to me recently about MVP, minimum viable product, and that without MVP, you can't iterate. And the whole point is to iterate. And so if you don't have anything to iterate, you got to start somewhere. And so you got to have this bias for action to get started. So yes, that's a great one. One of the other guys that I loved, a good friend of mine, Nick Runyon from CV North America, shared what they're trying to do on using Google Ads and tying the network of churches together. They're working with, I think, over 1,000, almost, is it 1,400 local churches in a whole network together to serve up the gospel. Nick is someone that we recently interviewed on episode, I think it was episode 12 of Future.Bible. So if you're listening, you can go back into the archives and listen to the interview that we had with Nick Runyon and what he's doing with this 50-state digital evangelism network, basically, right? They've got churches in every single state that they're working with and putting ads online with them, capturing people who are looking for different felt needs or life transitions or different things that are related to faith, and then trying to connect them with local offline ministries, which I think is very, very an interesting use of technology. So it's great to see practical evangelism being shared of how they're doing it. So that was a great talk. One of the things I loved is the backstage. There was this backstage area, and we had this, you and I had the privilege of interviewing and talking and chatting up with some of the speakers and sharing some of the offstage chat with people on the live stream, right? Future.Bible was a co-sponsor with American Bible Society and some others to make that live stream happen so that churches and teams and individuals across the globe, there were some international people that logged on that were able to watch and tap into the live stream for free, which I thought was a great opportunity. It was fun, right? In that backstage area.
Yes, you emceed the most of those interviews with a great ease and energy, and people enjoyed watching that from all over the world. We even got a couple emails in from people that were watching, and they were really grateful. One in particular, that one of the presenters had his family watching from home, and it was the first time they got to see that happen. So they were very grateful. Yeah.
That's fun.
And here's one of the phenomena in the 21st century that I think some of our older, or I'll say older traditional church leaders need to understand, is that we had more people online than we had in the room.
Yes.
And traditionally, we've really worked hard at getting a building and managing facilities and make sure we have enough seats for people. But it's a new world. There's going to be more people online when you live stream or when you present your content outside the room than inside the room. And we got to see that at FaithLeads.tech.
And they're going to actually, the number was a multiple. It wasn't just like 1 to 1.1, right? Mm-hmm. It was a multiple higher degree of people being able to experience it online. And then it's going to continue on because Lifeway is taking all of those speaker talks and then cleaning them up and putting them up online for on-demand access in perpetuity. And this is one of those things that I love, because conferences are expensive to go to these days, right? It is expensive to take even a team, forget about just 1 or 2 people, to go consume content and meet other people. But one of the great things about these on-demand options that conferences are allowing these days is it allows you to do almost like what I love is a lunch and learn, right? Reserve a conference room, invite your team together, and then grab lunch, and then watch 1 or 2 of these speakers. And this is actually the type of conference where the content is, I love the fact that the content is, you have a selection of speakers, if you had the on-demand pass, that you can cherry pick 1 or 2 of them that are applicable either to a very narrow, like a team, very specific team, or one that's open to maybe all your key volunteers even, because they're inspirational and they're general topic, and you don't need to nerd out, that you actually, and some are just very, was it Dan, who was it, the speaker talking about double ecclesiology, connecting creation theology with temple theology. That was Dan Hodges, right? I think he was the one there.
I missed that talk, but I heard some buzz about it.
It was
quite
great one.
Dynamic duality kind of thing.
Yes. He started with dualism and went through the whole. So that type of talk is something I think is edifying to everybody in your church staff, team, or volunteer, or even your life groups or small groups. It's something that you can do, change it up, or maybe it's between curriculums. If your small group is taking a break, you could use this as one of those in-between meetings, content for that. So anyway, I'm thankful that Lifeway has made that decision to be able to offer that to people afterwards, and it's cheap, right? It's only $35 to get all the conference recordings, which I thought
that's phenomenal.
Thank you, Lifeway, for making that happen. Again, I love the fact that you've got the stuff that there was all this energy, all this effort, all this budget, getting people into the same room, flying the speakers in, And now you're able to steward the content and the teachings that these guys had, pay it forward by making it such an accessible piece for other teams to take advantage of.
So that leaves the one question open. Well, how do people get it?
Well, it's at the website, right? The conference website, which is faithleads.tech, www.faithleads.tech. And then I think by now, they must have by now put up a button or an option to download all those conference recordings by now.
Yes, it's available right now.
Yeah.
Act now.
Act. It's one of those. Act right now. But yes, so yeah, that's a good conference recap. So I was just sharing the URL. I'm just going to go on a tangent here, DJ. Do you feel the need with GTLDs to insert the www in beforehand? I said www.faithleads.tech.
Yes.
Do you think we need to keep on saying that, or do you think is it intuitive that people just know faithleads.tech? That's the website you go to. Get.Bible.
I think the verdict is split. I think the last research that the Internet Corporation did, about 54% of people have heard of one new GTLD, but they don't know them all. I mean, nobody knows them all. Yeah. But that also means half of the people have not heard of new GTLDs. So depending on the audience, you might use a www. And I think when it's audio, I usually do not use www. I use www only in some written or typed format. And I've noticed that you always use it, and I never use www.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up.
50-50. That's 50-50. There you go.
50-50. Yeah, that's one thing I have noticed. We've never ever talked about it out loud. And so it's like, it's interesting. I think just for sake of clarity and helping, just from my point of view, I think it's taking that extra step to help somebody who may not know, just making it that much easier for them is probably the reason why I stick on that www whenever I talk about a GTLD. But I think you're right. At this point, we're probably almost at the tipping point where everyone has, 50% of the population has seen, heard, or used one of the new GTLDs. So you probably don't need to, especially when you're using .dot, right? If you're referring to it as a website and then you say something with a dot in there, I think that that's signal enough at this point.
Yeah, and people just need the one experience of what the dot is about, and then they're past the barrier. Then a good introduction, and then they're on the other side of that 50%.
Yeah. I know from adoption point of view, we've had many people, at least with this registry alone for .Bible, I've talked to many .Bible website owners now that have either made the transition or launched a new website using .Bible, right? So some have from scratch, they've registered a .Bible website address and they launched the website from scratch, and they have to build up their audience and their readership, et cetera. And then there are others that have had previous websites, whether it be a .com, .org, something else, and then made the transition from branding purposes to the .Bible domain. I still have yet to have a single person I've had a conversation with that has complained about visibility, awareness, or that usage that people get confused. People actually are not being confused about .Bible. Have you had any feedback from .Bible website owners, GTLD website owners, where they've said it's not worth it, or there's so much friction, or that they have to go the extra mile in communicating that it is an actual website address? I really have not heard that, at least anecdotally.
Maybe one or two out of thousands. So it's not absolute, but it does. There are some speed bumps, in rare occasion. One of the ones that I found most impressive, or two most impressive, is that one church actually registered a .Bible domain, and they just use it as a redirect to another web page because it makes communication so succinct, clear, memorable, and easy. So H2O Church.Bible, is how they communicate and how they invite people to read the Bible with the church. And that's amazing. I mean, you can just, so instead of using URLs, people are beginning to use domain names to connect people to resources. And so
Just
that's,
makes sense.
That,
I mean,
yeah.
it makes sense in this world where everything goes towards specialization, that piece of real estate doesn't just stay generic without any value, right? Without any meta value.
And I said two. So the other one that really impressed me, and so we created this part. One of the reasons we created, one of the reasons we created the people that created .Bible. So American Bible Society, 200-year-old organization. This is their third century of innovation. They want to open this space for innovation. And this other thing that I wouldn't have thought of, there's the Institute for Bible Reading.
Oh, yes. Love those guys.
They're using a .Bible domain just for email.
Yes.
So they're not using it for a website or a landing page, which are very common. They're just using it for email because it's so much easier to type a short domain name than their long one that is their website, which is, I think it spell it all out, instituteforbiblereading.com.
Yes. That is,
these are exciting
really,
times.
well, it's a testimony to just the practicality of a short domain name. And functionally, email is something that you're typing in all the time, or you're asking other people to type in. And so that's I love that case study, or the use of that they're using it because it's a shorthand way to keep their identity and keep their mission in front of people. But yet, practically speaking, you're not making someone type in like 50 characters just for every single email that they send you. So that sums it up for today. I think those are the types of things that we wanted to share and talk about. We had Thanksgiving.Bible, which is a great, aggregation resource, and it's I think a great case study of how you would use GTLDs. Very specific, niche, focused functionality, and using that resource to make it publicly available. Curation is at the crux of that website, which is great resources that was started. And then the recap of FaithLeads.tech, and I guess we just walked into it kind of semi unintentional, but a really an encouragement for anybody here that's listening to check out the speakers that were at the event and potentially buy the conference recordings and share it with some teams. I think it really is a different type of conference and a different type of message, and the variety of talks. There were some that were very focused on sharing what they're doing practically, vocationally. There's some that talked about innovation and what's next. There's something that really talks about Bible theology and how it fits into the lens of technology and innovation, and who we are as technologists, as communicators, as people of the Bible, of the book. And so there you have it. So, I think that was a good conversation that we had, DJ.
That was a great wrap up and summary. Thank you, Kenny. Always good to see you and talk with you. And
so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we've got a couple of good interviewees lined up. I'm excited. And we'll get back into the rhythm of sharing some other people's stories and other organizations. And just here's a shout out to the recordings that we have already produced. There's videos, transcriptions, and show notes available on our website. And DJ, I'll give you the honors to share what the website is that everyone can go to immediately and binge watch or binge listen to more of the podcast that we have here.
Okay, stay connected with us and listen, subscribe at www.future.Bible.
I love the fact that you put www in front of it.
Yeah, that was for you, Kenny.
Well, thank you, DJ. Thank you, friends, for being with us. We'll check you here next time. I'm Kenny Jahng and DJ Chuang here, signing off. Hoping you have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's session, please help us share this podcast with your friends, colleagues, and family members. You can do that by leaving a review on iTunes or by sharing our website, www.Future.Bible, with your network. Don't forget to join us next week for the next episode of the Future.Bible Podcast.